Now the 3-year-old Russia-Ukraine war has entered a critical stage. As the fighting rages on, Russian President Vladimir Putin has questioned the Ukrainian ceasefire deal. This comes even as Russia claims recapture of 3 towns in Kursk. Russia claims to have recaptured Sudza, Milovoy and Podol towns in the Kursk region, saying that the Ukrainian military had lost hundreds of people and various weapons in Kursk over the past day. Now, these are the images of Russian troops entering the center of Sudza and raising the Russian national flag. Ukraine says it has repelled 17 Russian attacks in the region. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy has said that the Russian army is putting maximum pressure on the Ukrainian army in Kursk. Now, Putin has said Russia supports the idea of a truce, but with certain reservations. He made this remark at a joint press conference with Belarus's President Lukashenko, and Putin said a ceasefire with Ukraine is important, but many questions about the proposed deal remain unanswered. Now, following up on his skepticism, the Russian president indicated that a phone call with his American counterpart Donald Trump is in the pipeline. Putin then went on to question the need for a 30-day ceasefire. He said that it gives time to Ukraine to potentially mobilize and rearm during the month-long truce. The Russian leader raised many more questions like who will control the ceasefire, given the 2,000-kilometer-long war front with Ukraine.
We agree with the proposals to stop the hostilities, but we proceed from the fact that this ceasefire should be such that it would lead to long-term peace and eliminate the original roots of this crisis.
And Zelenskyy has condemned Putin's stance on a ceasefire as very manipulative. He said Ukraine not set conditions that complicate anything, but Russia is the one who will drag things out and be unconstructive. Zelenskyy also accused Putin of actually preparing a refusal, claiming he is afraid to say directly to Trump what that he wants to continue the war.
We have all now heard very predictable and highly manipulative words from Russia's President Vladimir Putin in response to the idea of a ceasefire at the front. He is in fact preparing a rejection at present. Putin is, of course, scared to tell President Trump directly that he wants to continue this war, that he wants to kill Ukrainians.
Putin's comments have come just hours ahead of a potential meeting with U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff, who's in Moscow for talks on Ukraine. Ahead of the talks, Trump has said that he hopes Russia will do the right thing and agree to a ceasefire. The U.S. president has also said that while Putin has made a very promising statement, it wasn't complete.
No, he put a very promising statement, but it wasn't complete. And yeah, I'd love to meet with him or talk to him. But we have to get it over with fast. You know, every day people are being killed. It's not like, as we sit here, 2 people will be killed. Think of it.
Well, during the briefing, Putin thanked Trump for paying attention to this settlement in Ukraine.
First of all, I would like to start by saying thanks to US President Trump for his attention to settlement in Ukraine.
Putin also thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi along with other state heads for devoting time to this issue despite having a lot on their plates. Now, he put out words of gratitude for the leaders of China, India, Brazil and South Africa for their noble missions to end the fighting. Now, Putin's statement signals the potential involvement of India and the other countries in a ceasefire deal. All right, for more on this, we're now being joined by Mr. John Araz from Washington, D.C. He is a Senior Policy Director for the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation in Washington. Thank you so much for joining us on WION The World is One.
Thank you. It's always good to be here.
Always a pleasure to have you, sir. Now, to begin with, a Russian president has said that the idea of a ceasefire itself is correct. However, he does have some reservations when it comes to a ceasefire. Of course, one of them being that Ukraine might use this month-long truce to rearm and regroup. That being said, do you see the two sides coming on the negotiations table anytime soon in the near future and implementing a ceasefire deal?
I think that both sides will continue to do as they have been and express support for the idea of a ceasefire. Certainly everyone wants the war to be over as soon as possible, but there are still some very serious outstanding issues between them, particularly the Russian occupation of Ukrainian territory, that are going to make achieving a deal very difficult.
All right. Now, of course, Russian President Vladimir Putin also made these comments hours ahead of a potential meeting with U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff, and who is in Moscow. There may be talks. That being said, what are your expectations from the talks in Moscow if they were to take place?
I think that President Putin has already expressed that he has reservations about the conditions for a ceasefire. So I think we're going to hear more about these reservations, which are likely to amount to an effective no. I think the Russians are going to want some guarantee that they will be allowed to continue to occupy Ukrainian territory as they have been, and will want some other conditions that are unacceptable to Ukraine and probably everybody else. But Putin will be careful not to say no outright. It will be yes, but I need all of these other things. In effect, he wants the U.S. to negotiate against Ukraine. He's taking advantage of the strong desire of the Trump administration to be a peacemaker. And he understands that the White House wants more than anything else to be the agency that brokers a peace in Ukraine. And they're going to take advantage of this and extract as many concessions as possible so that President Trump will be able to accord himself the status of peacemaker.
Right, Mr. Erath, and the Ukrainian president has called the Russian president's stance as very manipulative. And building on that, how do you see the talks actually progressing, given that a lot is riding in terms of the global, optics of it all?
I think that, as I said, there will be some very difficult issues that will have to be addressed if the talks are to succeed and if there is a serious approach. At this point, I think that it's not so much that Putin is manipulative, but he's trying to manipulate the situation. He wants, as a short-term goal, to turn the United States and Ukraine against one another, to have them opposing each other, as was seen in the White House meeting a week ago. This is a situation that is very comfortable for Russia, and I think that Russia is going to explore ways to make that difference more significant.
All right, Ms. Era, thank you so much for joining us on World DNA with your insights on this. Of course, how things pan out going forward, that's something we'll keep a close eye on.
Thank you.